Hello, we're excited to show you our native speech capabilities. Welcome back to the English journey. Today, we are going inside the most powerful tool you own, your brain. I'm Anna.
And I'm Abel. For a long time, I felt like a slow speaker because I was always translating. Today, we will show you how to flip the switch and start thinking in English.
Abel, I love that you said that because this is something that almost every English learner experiences. You hear a question in English, and then your brain does something very interesting. It takes that English sentence, it translates it into your native language, then you think of your answer in your native language, and then you translate that answer back into English. That is a lot of work for your brain.
Oh, it really is. I remember when someone would ask me a simple question like, "What did you do this weekend?" And my brain would go on a long journey. First, I would understand the question in English, then I would translate it into my first language, then I would think about my weekend in my first language, then I would build my answer in my first language, and then finally I would try to translate that answer into English. By the time I was ready to speak, the other person was already looking at me with a strange face, like they were waiting too long.
And that is exactly the problem we want to talk about today. This process of jumping between two languages is what makes you speak slowly. It is what makes you feel tired after a conversation in English. And it is what makes you feel like you are not a fluent speaker, even if you know a lot of English words.
Yes, and the worst part is that it makes you feel frustrated. You know the words, you studied the grammar, but when you need to speak, everything feels stuck. It's like a traffic jam inside your head. There are too many cars trying to go in too many directions.
That is a perfect way to describe it. Think about it like this. When you translate in your head, you are building a bridge between two languages every single time you want to say something. You are going from English to your native language and then back to English. That bridge takes time to cross, and the more you use that bridge, the more tired your brain becomes.
So what is the solution, Anna? How do we stop using that bridge?
The solution is something we call the mental bridge, but actually the goal is to remove the bridge completely. Instead of jumping between two languages, you want to stay in one language. You want to stay in English. When you hear English, you understand it in English. When you want to speak, you think in English. There is no jumping. There is no translating. It is like a clear highway with no traffic. Your thoughts move quickly and smoothly from your brain to your mouth.
That sounds amazing, but also very difficult. How can someone actually do that? I mean, if you have been translating your whole life, how do you just stop?
That's a great question, and the answer is that you do it step by step. You do not wake up one morning and suddenly think in English. It is a process. It's like training a muscle. You train your brain a little bit every day, and slowly, over time, your brain starts to change. It starts to accept English as a normal language, not a foreign language.
Okay, so let us talk about those steps. What is the first thing someone can do to start thinking in English?
The first step is very simple, and you can start doing it right now, today, wherever you are. We call it labeling your world. Here's what you do. You look around you, and for every object you see, you think of the English name for it. You do not say the name in your native language first. You go directly to English.
Can you give us an example?
Of course. Right now, look around the room you are in. What do you see? Maybe you see a chair, so in your head you say chair. You see a table, you think table. You see a window, you think window. You pick up your coffee and you think coffee. You grab your keys and you think keys. You are labeling everything around you in English.
Oh, I actually started doing this a few months ago, and it really helped me. I was in my kitchen, and I started pointing at things in my head. Refrigerator, spoon, plate, cup, water. I did this every morning while I was making my breakfast, and after a few weeks, something changed. I stopped thinking of those things in my first language. When I looked at a spoon, my brain did not say the word in my first language anymore. It went directly to spoon in English.
And that is exactly what happens when you practice this. Your brain creates a direct connection between the object and the English word. There is no translation step in between. The object and the English word become connected, like two best friends who are always together.
I love that. And it's so easy to do. You can do it while you're walking to work, while you're at the supermarket, while you're cooking dinner. You just look at things and say the English word in your head.
Exactly. And don't worry if you don't know the English word for something. That's okay. Just skip it and move to the next object. Later, you can look up that word and learn it. But the important thing is to practice going directly to English without translating first.
Okay, so that's step 1, labeling your world. What is step 2?
Step 2 is what we call simple sentence building. This is where you take your labeling practice and make it bigger. Instead of just thinking of single words, you start building simple sentences in your head about what you're doing.
So instead of just thinking coffee, I would think I am making coffee.
Yes, exactly. You describe your actions to yourself in simple English. For example, when you wake up in the morning, you think, I am waking up. I am getting out of bed. I am walking to the bathroom. I am brushing my teeth. The water is cold. Now I am going to the kitchen. I am making breakfast. I am eating eggs. The eggs are good.
That is really interesting. You're basically talking to yourself in your head, but in English.
That's exactly what you're doing. And the sentences don't need to be long or complicated. In fact, simple sentences are better. You're not writing an essay, you're just describing your life in easy English. Subject, verb, object. I am eating breakfast. The sun is shining. My bag is heavy. I like this song.
I tried this once, and I noticed something. At first, it was very slow. I had to really think about each word. But after a few days, the sentences started coming faster. It was like my brain was getting used to building English sentences without needing to translate them first.
That is your brain learning a new habit. And that is a very important word for today, a habit. Thinking in English is a habit, just like brushing your teeth or drinking water in the morning. At first, you have to remind yourself to do it, but after some time, it becomes automatic. Your brain does it without you even trying. And when something becomes automatic, we can say it becomes subconscious. Subconscious means your brain does it without you thinking about it, like breathing. You do not think, okay, now I need to breathe in, now I need to breathe out. Your brain just does it. That is subconscious, and that is what we want English to become for you. We want English to become subconscious.
Subconscious. I like that word. So the goal is for English to become so natural that your brain uses it without effort, like breathing.
Exactly. And the more you practice these steps, the more subconscious your English will become. Now let us move to step 3.
What is step 3?
Step 3 is about something that many learners do, and I understand why they do it, but it actually slows down their progress. Step 3 is about guessing from context. Let me explain. Many English learners carry a dictionary with them, or they have a translation app on their phone. And every time they see or hear a word they do not know, they immediately look it up. They translate it into their native language.
I used to do that all the time. I would be watching a movie in English, and every time I heard a new word, I would pause the movie, open my phone, and look up the word. It took me 3 hours to watch a 90-minute movie.
And I'm sure by the end of the movie, you were exhausted.
Completely exhausted. And honestly, I did not even remember most of the words I looked up.
That's because your brain was not really learning those words. It was just memorizing translations. And there's a big difference between memorizing a translation and truly learning a word. When you memorize a translation, you know that word A in English means word B in your language. But you don't really understand the word. You don't feel the word. You don't know how it lives in a sentence.
So what should we do instead?
Instead of looking up every word, try to guess the meaning from context. Context means the words and sentences around the word you do not know. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are reading a story and you see this sentence. The man was so famished that he ate 3 plates of food in 10 minutes. Maybe you don't know the word famished, but look at the context. The man ate 3 plates of food in 10 minutes. What do you think famished means?
Well, if he ate 3 plates of food very quickly, he was probably very, very hungry.
Exactly. You just understood the word without a dictionary. Your brain figured it out by looking at the clues around the word. And this is so important because when your brain works to figure out a meaning, it remembers that meaning much better. It's like a puzzle. When you solve a puzzle yourself, you remember the answer. But when someone just tells you the answer, you forget it quickly.
That makes so much sense. So the dictionary is not bad, but using it too much can actually stop your brain from growing.
That is exactly right. The dictionary is a tool, and it's a good tool. But if you use it for every single word, your brain never gets the chance to practice guessing, to practice thinking, to practice understanding from context. And context is how native speakers learn most of their vocabulary. When you were a child learning your first language, you did not have a dictionary. You learned words by hearing them in different situations, in different contexts, and your brain figured out what they meant. We want you to do the same thing with English.
So the advice is, when you see or hear a new word, do not immediately reach for the dictionary. First, try to understand the meaning from the situation, from the other words around it. And if you really can't figure it out, then yes, you can use the dictionary, but try to guess first.
Perfectly said, Abel. Now let us move to step 4, which is one of my favorite steps.
What is step 4?
Step 4 is what we call the power of narrating. To narrate means to tell a story, to describe what is happening. A narrator is the person who tells the story. You know when you watch a movie and there's a voice that describes what is happening? That voice is the narrator. In step 4, you become the narrator of your own life.
Oh, this is interesting. So I become like the voice in a movie, but the movie is my life?
Exactly. As you go through your day, you describe what is happening around you in English, in your head. You're like a narrator in a documentary about your own life. For example, you're walking to the bus stop. In your head, you say, I am walking down the street. The weather is nice today. The sky is blue. There are many people walking. I can see a dog. The dog is small and brown. I am waiting for the bus now. The bus is late. I am a little annoyed.
I love that. The bus is late. I am a little annoyed. That's real-life narration right there.
And that's why this exercise is so powerful. You're not practicing with a textbook. You're practicing with your real life. The vocabulary you use is vocabulary that is important to you. The sentences you build are sentences about your real experiences. This makes the learning personal. And when learning is personal, your brain remembers it much better.
I started doing this on my walks to work. I would narrate everything I saw. There's a woman with a red hat. She is talking on the phone. A car just passed very fast. That driver is not being safe. I am crossing the street now. The light is green. And it actually became fun. It was like a game. How much can I describe in English?
And the more you do it, the more detailed your narrations become. At first, you might say simple things like, I see a tree. But after a few weeks, you might say, I see a tall tree with yellow leaves. The wind is blowing and some leaves are falling to the ground. It looks beautiful. Your English is growing and you don't even realize it because you're not studying. You're just living your life and describing it.
That's the key, isn't it? Making English a part of your life, not just something you study in a classroom or from a book.
Absolutely. And that leads us to our next important idea, which is something called micro-immersion. Now, immersion is a word that language learners hear a lot. Immersion means surrounding yourself completely with a language. If you move to an English-speaking country, that's full immersion. You hear English everywhere, you read English everywhere, you need to speak English everywhere. Your brain has no choice. It must learn.
But most people can't move to an English-speaking country, so what can they do?
That is where micro-immersion comes in. Micro means small, so micro-immersion means creating small moments of immersion in your daily life wherever you are. You do not need to move to London or New York. You can create an English environment right where you are.
How?
There are many ways. First, change the language on your phone to English. This is a very simple thing, but it is very effective. Every time you use your phone, you see English. Your brain starts to recognize English words and phrases as normal, not foreign.
Oh, I did that last year. At first it was confusing. I did not know where some settings were because the words were different. But after a week, I got used to it. And now when I see a phone in another language, it looks strange to me.
That is a perfect example of your brain accepting English as normal. Second, listen to English as much as possible. Listen to English podcasts like this one. Listen to English music. Watch English movies and TV shows. You do not need to understand every word. The important thing is that your brain hears English sounds, English rhythms, English patterns. Over time, your brain starts to recognize these patterns, and English starts to feel familiar instead of foreign.
I listen to English podcasts every day on my way to work. Sometimes I understand everything, and sometimes I only understand half. But I keep listening, and I have noticed that my understanding has improved a lot over time. Words that I used to miss, I now catch easily. Sentences that used to sound too fast, I now understand clearly.
And that's because your brain has been absorbing English, even when you did not realize it. Absorbing means taking in, like a sponge takes in water. Your brain is like a sponge. The more English you put around it, the more it absorbs. And this is true even for passive listening. Passive listening means listening without trying too hard. You are cooking dinner, and an English podcast is playing in the background. You are not focused on every word, but your brain is still hearing English. It is still absorbing patterns and sounds. This passive listening is part of micro-immersion, and it is very powerful.
So the idea is to fill your day with as much English as possible, even in small ways. English on your phone, English in your ears, English on your TV, English in your thoughts.
Yes, and here's why this works. Your brain has something called a language filter. When your brain thinks that a language is foreign, it puts up a wall. It resists the language. It says, "This is not my language. I do not need to process this." But when your brain hears a language all the time, every day, in many different situations, it starts to change its mind. It says, "Oh, this language is everywhere. Maybe it is important. Maybe I should pay more attention to it." And slowly, the wall comes down. Your brain starts to accept English as a normal, useful language, not a foreign, scary one.
That is really interesting. So the brain needs to feel that English is safe and normal before it can truly learn it.
That is a beautiful way to put it, Abel. The brain needs to feel safe, and micro-immersion is how you create that safety. Now, let's move to something very practical, a brain training exercise that you can do right now.
I love practical exercises. What is it?
This exercise is about summarizing. To summarize means to take a big piece of information and explain it in a short and simple way. Here's the exercise. Think of a movie you watched recently, or a book you read, or even a story someone told you. Now, try to summarize that movie, book, or story in your head using only simple English.
Okay, let me try. I watched a movie last week. Let me summarize it in simple English. Okay. The movie is about a young man. He lives in a small town. He is not happy because his life is boring. One day, he finds a special key. The key opens a door to another world. In this other world, everything is different. The colors are bright, the animals can talk, and there is no time. He meets a girl there. She helps him understand that his boring life is actually very special. At the end, he goes back home, and he is happy.
That was wonderful, Abel. Did you hear what you just did? You summarized an entire movie using simple, clear English. You did not use complicated vocabulary. You did not use difficult grammar structures. You used words like young man, small town, happy, boring, special, bright, different. These are all simple words, but they told a complete story.
And I didn't translate. I just thought about the movie and described it in English. My brain went directly from the images in my memory to English words. There was no stop in my native language.
And that's the magic of this exercise. When you practice summarizing things in English, your brain learns to organize thoughts in English. It learns to find the important information and express it simply. And the more you practice, the faster and smoother it becomes.
I think this exercise is also great for speaking practice. If you can summarize a movie in your head in English, you can also tell someone about a movie in English. It's the same skill.
Exactly. And you can do this exercise with anything. Summarize your day before you go to sleep. Today I woke up early. I went to work. I had a meeting. The meeting was long but interesting. After work, I went to the gym. I was very tired. Now I am in bed. It was a good day. You can also summarize a news article you read, a conversation you had, or even a dream you had last night.
Oh, summarizing dreams would be fun. And probably a little strange.
Yes, dreams can be very strange, but that makes the exercise even more interesting. The point is that you are constantly practicing thinking in English, organizing your thoughts in English, and expressing yourself in English. Every time you do this, you are building new connections in your brain. You are making your English neural pathways stronger.
Neural pathways. That sounds scientific.
It is scientific. Neural pathways are like roads in your brain. When you learn something new, your brain builds a small road. Every time you practice, that road gets bigger and stronger. If you practice a lot, the road becomes a highway. Information can travel on a highway very quickly. So when you practice thinking in English every day, you are building a highway for English in your brain. And when that highway is strong enough, English flows naturally and quickly.
So practicing is like building a highway in your brain. I really like that image.
And just like building a real highway, it takes time. You cannot build a highway in one day. You need patience. And that is something very important that I want to talk about before we finish today.
Patience. Yes, I think this is one of the hardest parts of learning a language.
It really is. Many learners try these exercises for a few days, and then they feel frustrated because they are still translating in their head. They think, this is not working. I am still thinking in my native language. And then they stop practicing.
I felt that way too, honestly. I practiced the narrating exercise for about a week, and I still caught myself translating. I almost gave up.
But you did not give up.
No, I did not. I kept going because I read somewhere that it takes at least 3 to 4 weeks for a new habit to feel natural. So I told myself, just keep going. Give your brain time.
And what happened after those few weeks?
Something started to change. It wasn't a big, dramatic change. It was small. I noticed that sometimes I would think a whole sentence in English without any effort. It just appeared in my head. Like I would see rain outside and think, oh, it is raining, and I did not translate. The English just came. And those moments started happening more and more often.
That's exactly how it works. The change is not sudden. It doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual. It's like watching a plant grow. Every day you water it, every day you check it, and for a while nothing seems to happen, but the plant is growing underground. The roots are getting stronger. And then one day you see a small green leaf, and then another, and then a flower. The growth was happening the whole time. You just couldn't see it.
So the message for our listeners is do not give up. Even if you feel like nothing is changing, your brain is working. Your brain is building those neural pathways. Your brain is getting stronger in English. You just need to give it time and keep practicing.
That is exactly right. And I want to add something very important. Once your brain makes this switch, once it starts thinking in English naturally, that change is almost permanent. It does not go away easily. Fluency, true fluency, is not something you lose overnight. Once those highways in your brain are built, they stay.
That is very encouraging. So the hard work you do now will give you results that last forever.
Forever is a strong word, but yes, the results are long-lasting. Of course, you should continue to practice and use English regularly to keep those highways in good condition, but the foundation, the base, will always be there.
Okay, so let us review what we talked about today. We started with the problem, which is mental translation. When you translate everything in your head from your native language to English and back, it makes you slow, it makes you tired, and it stops you from being fluent.
Then we talked about the mental bridge and how the goal is to remove that bridge. Instead of jumping between two languages, you want to stay in English. You want to think, understand, and respond all in English.
Step 1 was labeling your world. You look at objects around you and think of their English names directly. Chair, table, phone, cup. No translation, just the English word.
Step 2 was simple sentence building. You describe your actions and your day in simple English sentences in your head. I am walking to work. The coffee is hot. I feel happy today.
Step 3 was guessing from context. Instead of looking up every new word in a dictionary, you try to understand the meaning from the words and sentences around it. This trains your brain to think in English instead of translating.
Step 4 was the power of narrating. You become the narrator of your own life. You describe what you see, what you do, and what you feel, all in simple English in your head.
Then we talked about micro-immersion, which means creating small English environments in your daily life. English on your phone, English podcasts, English music, English TV shows. These small things help your brain accept English as a normal, everyday language.
We also shared a brain training exercise, summarizing a movie, a book, your day, or even a dream in simple English in your head. This helps your brain organize thoughts in English.
And finally, we talked about patience. This process takes time. Your brain needs weeks, sometimes months, to build those neural pathways. But once they are built, they are strong and they last.
I want our listeners to remember one very important thing. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to think in English 100% of the time right away. Even thinking in English 5% of the time is progress. Even one English thought without translation is a victory. Celebrate those small moments. They are proof that your brain is changing.
And every small moment will lead to bigger moments. 5% will become 10%. 10 will become 20, 20 will become 50, and before you know it, you will be thinking in English most of the time, and it will feel natural, like it was always this way.
That is the beautiful thing about the brain. It is an incredible machine. It can learn, it can adapt, it can change. You just need to give it the right training and the right environment. And the steps we shared today are the training your brain needs.
So start today. Start right now. Look around you. What do you see? Say the English word in your head. What are you doing right now? Describe it in a simple English sentence. You are listening to a podcast. You are learning something new. You are training your brain. See? You are already doing it.
We believe in you. We know this journey is not easy, but we also know that you can do it. Every person who is fluent in English today was once a beginner. Every person who thinks in English today once translated everything in their head. They went through the same process, they practiced the same steps, and they succeeded. And you will too.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We hope these steps help you on your English journey. Please try them this week and see how they feel. Start small, be patient with yourself, and remember, your brain is more powerful than you think.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend who's also learning English. And do not forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next episode. We have so many more tips and strategies to share with you.
And if you want, leave a comment below and tell us which step you are going to try first. We would love to hear from you. We read every comment, and it makes us very happy to know that we are helping you.
Thank you for being part of the English journey. Keep practicing, keep listening, and keep believing in yourself. Your fluency is closer than you think.
See you in the next episode, everyone. Take care of yourselves and take care of your brains.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep thinking in English.
Bye-bye.